when you're starting your podcast, feeling like you need to be on every single platform just to let people know that you exist and where to lock in and tune in and get the full value from you. But it can be very draining to, sit down and really schedule out content and schedule out the content and the different types of content. I've taken them off of the platforms and
Yeah.
I'm not so focused on the platforms. I'm just so focused on making sure my audience is subscribed to me and my brand and my messaging 6
Yeah.
months to a year from now. And so I really appreciate having this conversation
Thank you.
because sometimes I feel like because I put out so many podcast episodes, not everybody knows all about the podcast episodes I have because I haven't even created a system.
Welcome to my podcast story, the show where podcasters share the real journey behind their voices, from their first mic check to their biggest milestones. Every episode reveals the lessons, challenges, and breakthrough that shape a podcast star's journey. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I can't wait for you to hear today's story. Tell us your name and what you do.
All right, y'all. It's your healthy habits and lifestyle coach, Jovonnie, host of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. And I help women with chronic fatigue, pain, heavy cycles, really just bust out of survival mode and get into thriving mode by helping them change their lifestyles.
Oh, so you're all about helping women build habits and that help them live a healthy lifestyle, have a healthy lifestyle, basically.
Agreed. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, I
That's
like that.
right, wisdom.
At first, when I saw you, the first thing that popped in my head was like, oh, she helps people who, struggling with eating, have eating disorders and all that. And I was like, oh,
Agreed. So not
so,
necessarily eating disorders wisdom, but really finding ways to allow food to be your medicine. I didn't
mm,
always eat like a plant-based lifestyle. I didn't always eat with a purpose. And I found that a lot of women with endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibroids, people dealing with pelvic pain, heavy periods, bloating, they felt like their body was working against them. And it was things in their lifestyle that could potentially help change things, disrupt the patterns, disrupt the low vibrational energy. And I was just like, oh my goodness. So when I had been diagnosed with all of those conditions,
yeah,
somebody told me that I needed to change like my eating, like my nutrition could help. And
yeah.
when I did that wisdom, that was like the first change for me. And I started having good food experiences with food that was good to me. And it helped my periods get better, it helped my periods get lighter. And then I started helping other people do the same. And so I was just like, "Ooh, this is a vibe. Like I'm a foodie, I'm loving it, and I'm healing at the
Yeah,
same time." Like whoever
yeah.
thought that healing could taste so good? You know what I mean?
Yeah. The reason I thought about food was when I saw the word plate. That's the only thing that comes to my mind once I see the word plate. And I was like, when I saw a power plate, I was like, wow, food. That's interesting. Yeah,
It
you know
was.
how words have symbols.
Yes, and so, like, in all actuality, because it was the foodie in me, one
Yeah.
of my signature questions on the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast, the last question I ask every guest is, if you could have a meal with any historical figure, who would it be and what would you all eat? And so, like, food and
Hmm.
being in a place of empowerment, it's like, how do you bridge those combinations? And it's so dope, wisdom, because I get to hear so many people talk about different people I've never even heard of, wanting to have a meal with them and then see what their plate actually would be. Like what would be that vibe? What would that meal be as they sit there and they chop it up and have conversations with this historical figure that they find historical, that they find empowering. And so I want to ask you that question, Wisdom. If you could have a meal with any historical figure, who would it be and what would y'all eat?
That's a tough choice. 'Cause there's so many. Wow. Okay. If I could have a meal, anyone in history. My brain is just it's chaotic right now. Okay, but
That's typically the response I get if they've never even seen an
Ah,
episode. And it's so
okay,
dope just to see people think.
that's a good question. That's a great question. I guess it will be. How do I choose? Well, my granddad. Yeah, let's start there.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Why your granddaddy and what would you and your granddaddy eat?
yeah. What would we eat? That's true. What would we eat? Okay. Okay. I, I don't. Right now I'm like, okay, what? Why? I'm like, what should I pick? Okay. Let's see. I don't know. Okay, that's a lot. Okay, my granddad. I've always had these stories from my dad. Like he's one of those person I wish I could have met. In real life. He died while my dad was pretty young. Right, but his story was really inspiring. So I was like,
Mm.
oh, I wish I could get to talk to him and ask him a couple of questions and all that. The food we eat, over here, what we call it fufu, and that's cassava, fermented cassava. And then the soup could vary. Well, depends on the mood. If the weather is cold or if the weather is hot, we could take something really spicy, like there's a buffet sala, and I think yeah, that could go with it, or melon soup. Either of those.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
See?
So
I
it's a
like
heavy
it.
heavy discussion. It's not light. We're talking about intense and deep matters, so we need something to digest it, to break it down.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I like that. You just gave me an idea. I should get a signature question I ask my guest. That's
I
that's that's
love it because I also take it like wisdom. I also take that question like if I'm in a community, and I either do like an interview on the spot out in the community, or if I do many interviews like at an event, and I have them taste like some juice or taste a snack, and I ask questions. I might end with that one signature question, even if they're not on the podcast, just to see
yeah,
what they would say and what they would eat, because I think it's such a thought provoking question.
yeah,
Just to know who would you want to be empowered with? Like, who would you want to just
yeah,
have one good meal with intention? And what would y'all eat? So I love that question. I think you should, Wisdom. I think you should.
yeah,
I don't know what your question would be. I know you helping people with their podcast stories, so it'd be like let's see, what's an example? Who do you wish would hear your podcast and help, or like who's the specific person you want your podcast to reach and motivate them at their absolute lowest, or like what legacy do you believe your podcast is leaving for the world? Like, I don't know, I'm just trying to think, like, because you're talking to people
yeah.
who have podcast stories, so
The
I'm just trying
the
to think
the the thing I love about your question is that it's not vogue. Because I don't know if you've noticed about guests. Sometimes guests have preconceived answers, and so when you ask a question, they project their question on top of your question and respond to their question. Does that make sense? And then
randomly.
you get an answer, and you're like, no, that's not what I asked. That's absolutely not what I asked, right? And so we find I asked a very specific question, and it's something that that it's not similar to what they're being asked every day, right? So it changes all the scripts. They can't go with the script that, oh yeah, blah, 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 right? And so they have to think and say, oh yeah, that's true. That's nice, right? And if they're going off the point, it's easy to know. Because now, if you're asking me, if you could have a meal with a historic figure, who would it be? And then I'm telling you that well, food is very important. It's very good for the body. And I'm like, dude,
It
that's
is.
not what we're talking about.
And then I also have some people who be like, well, it probably won't be anything healthy. Like sometimes people, I'll be like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
fine. It's still your choice.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I want people to know that they have a choice. Like, it's still a safe space. There's no judgment. Like, I don't want you to say, oh, I'm going to be drinking a fruit and vegetable juice and I'm going to be eating with Jesus.
yeah,
And, like that's not what I'm
yeah,
asking. Like, I just want you to be real. Like, give more of your
yeah,
personality. Like, who is somebody that you believe is somebody you would want to spend time with, let alone what would you really want to eat? Because eating is a choice. For so many people, it is a luxury to be able to choose what to eat. Not everybody has that privilege.
yeah.
But
It's
to be able to think about that shows that you have a privilege to choose what you eat. And then it's the certain experience and the dynamic that food provides to you and that conversation with your empowered person
yeah,
that you choose. And so I think that's the beautiful part about it, because you don't have to necessarily eat healthy all day, every day. Like, have the meal that makes you feel good.
yeah.
And so I think that's always like a good vibe too.
Yeah, the meal that makes you feel good and
Mhm.
and goes well for a conversation. There are different meals.
Right.
Yeah, there are those when you munch them and you start dropping gems and you're like, oh, I can't believe I said that. What happened? I'm not talking about drugs because I don't want anybody to say, oh, I thought we are talking about food. How come you're saying something else? I mean, if you eat, you know that there are certain meals that you
Mhm.
just eat it and you're like, wow, I'm a genius. I'm brilliant.
It has
Ah,
different effects, doesn't it, Wisdom?
yeah.
They can have different
Right.
effects.
The tongue tastes it and the brain is shocked. It's like, wow, can food be this? This is delicious. What's going on
Mhm.
here? Okay, you mentioned the podcast Empowered Place, Empowered Lives. Quickly, briefly, while you're introducing yourself, you mentioned that it was born out of an idea that where you try to fix uh, your own what's the word, to get a healthy habits by healthy food habits. And so when you realize that, okay, yeah, I could do this, and all the healthy, what's the word, healthy is it symptom, right? All the signs of good
Mhm.
health you were showing, and you mentioned some of them, and then you're like, okay, yeah, I should start a podcast helping other persons. And I'm curious, how did you come up with the name Empowered Lives, Empowered Plates? Was that Empowered Plates, Empowered
Man.
Lives? Was that the first
So let's
choice?
take it all the way back, wisdom. Let's take it back
Okay.
from the absolute beginning of
Okay.
like why even considered a podcast. Cause I didn't always say, oh, I want to have a podcast. I don't think podcast is always the sexy thing to do. You know what I mean? It takes a special
Yeah.
person to really get into podcasting because it's a long play. Like you really got
You're
to have an
special.
intention for what you're doing. Cause so many people say, oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna do a podcast. They do 10 episodes and they're done, which is fine because maybe they realize podcasting isn't for them. You know what I'm saying?
No
Or you can
judging.
get in there and just go with it and see yourself evolve and grow as your movement grows. And so that's what it was for me, wisdom. It was a movement. But before it started as a movement, somebody said, "Oh, you want to have a business? Well, get a podcast and that's going to allow people to know more about your business." And so like I started this wellness brand or movement because I started changing my lifestyle and I started seeing different signs and symptoms really be reduced when it came to endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and fibroids. And I was like, well, if it's working for me, I want to be able to help other people because when I get on Facebook, when I get on Instagram, when I get on TikTok, I see so many people in a I'm gonna say victim mindset, to
Yeah.
where they feel like their body is just against them and they can't do anything about it. They're really sad, low vibrational energy. And I wanted to be an empowering space. I wanted to be an empowering voice. I wanted to let them know there are still some things that you can do to help you with this chronic pain, with this chronic inflammation, with this chronic conditions and issues, with the anxiety, the depression that sometimes these conditions can really plague us with. And so I want it to be empowering. I want it to be upbeat. I want it to be like life, love, you know what I mean? And I didn't want it to be in a space where everybody is just struggling and we're only talking about the struggles. So I wanted them to know that pain wasn't normal and that they had a way out and it was deciding on how they chose to live every single day and changing one thing at a time. And for me, it was my mindset, my thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. Then it became, my mindful eating, what I was eating, how I was using it to help me. And then it became movement, like getting out there and just walking, like not hitting the gym, doing all these different things, but really just getting in a place of walking, and allowing it to be a full body experience and walking with my golden doodle, my dog, Spencer, being my accountability partner and just really getting out there and starting to feel better and seeing holistic, natural ways of healing and helping myself. And so that's the brand I wanted to start with. I wanted people to do it. And it was like, well, nobody's going to know you. So you might as well do a podcast and
Yeah.
let people know who you are and shine light on your brand. And then as time went on, wisdom, like no, I didn't get so many people coming to be coaching clients. What I got was so many other people wanted to come on my podcast and
Wow.
share their healing story, share how changing their food, changing their mindset, changing their environment, changing different things in their lifestyle helped them when they got chronic conditions or was living with something, not just those specific ones. And when people wanted to share, they wanted to be able to say, if I could do it, you could do it too. And I was like, oh, so this is a place of empowerment. Like everyone's coming, it's a safe space. And then I had some professionals come in and kind of share, their expertise and experience from breath work to, eating, nutrition to like different movement. And it was really beautiful, wisdom, because as I continued to open it up to more guests, and there was a time this year, 2025, where I just started the year with just solo episodes again, because I had to make sure I got confident in my voice so that people made sure they remembered that I'm still a coach. I still have, a brand that I'm representing and that I wanted them to know my experiences, my education, and let them know that pain is real. You can heal. Get out of survival mode. You can thrive. You got this. Here are some tools. Here's some things that you
Yeah.
needed to know. And so that was a big thing for me. And then when I started opening it back up to guests, More people wanted to come on. More people wanted to share their expertise, their experiences. And I love it because I'm learning every episode at a time, Wisdom. Like, I'm learning so much. So I'm like, if I'm learning so much, anybody that tunes in to the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast, they're going to be learning. They're going to be empowered. They're going to get something from this. It's going to be valuable. Today, 5 years from now, 50 years from now, they can still get something out of this conversation. Nothing is going to be outdated because it's still about lifestyle. And so I was like, oh, this is a vibe. Like, I'm growing with this thing. Let's get it. So that's kind of how the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast started, was all about me being about food, but just wanting to have a space of empowerment, knowing that lives could be changed just by tuning in and listening.
Yeah, I'm about to give you a compliment. The reason that why I'm even bothering to give the compliment in the first place is because whoever is listening will know that what I'm about to say is true. You just have what I like to call a contagious energy, right? You know, the way you just talk and like, right? And it's like, I'm like, wow. I'm like, wow. She's just like,
Thanks, Wisdom.
yeah. You started the podcast. You mentioned you started the podcast COVID, right?
I started it 2023. Podcast launched 2023. In
2023.
September, it'll be 2 years.
Ooh, celebration in the
Yeah,
air.
I think
Wow.
episode
And
102 is out there now. Yeah.
that calls for celebration.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll start to figure out what I need to do because Wisdom told me I need to turn up for the 2 years. Gotcha.
That's the where's the party happening? What's the venue for the party? So I can just drop location so I can find
Gotcha.
myself there.
So I have to get to
Yeah.
planning. Have
Yeah,
to
two
get to
years.
planning.
2 years is a huge milestone, right? You know podcasting, right? We all podcasters. We know the lot of the work that goes in. Considering that you don't even know what you're doing in the first place, except of course you have a background in podcasting and radio and all those things. Most of the things you're figuring it out. The thing about podcasting is that it reveals a lot of things about you to yourself. So even though you're doing podcasting, you're like, okay, I'm not. This idea is trash. Why is it trash? I'm not going to release an episode this month. Why? You start asking your questions and then you start. It's a very it's a sweet experience, but
It is.
yeah, yeah.
It
But
is. But to look back at it, Wisdom, it looks beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Like, to go, your first 10 episodes and you're really like, oh my goodness, what's happening? This feels awkward. It feels strange. Am I talking to somebody? Is anybody going to resonate with the message? And then like you get into 50 and you're like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm starting to figure some things out. It's getting a little bit, easier to just like push it out there. Then you get to 100 and you like, ooh, you serious about this? Like, you really growing this thing. And to anybody that's listening, that might think that your podcast isn't reaching people, the right people will come at the right time. But you have to be there for them to know that you're for
yeah,
them. And so if you feel like you're not getting a lot of views or you're not getting a lot of downloads, if it's audio versions, just keep putting your voice out there.
yeah,
You don't know who needs you. You don't know how many people is that need you. Even if it's just one person, that's one person that if you didn't do what you were doing, would have never been able to get something from, be impacted from you, and from your voice and from your experience or whatever experience you're giving them on your podcast. So don't let it stop you. Don't let it stop you. And then also don't just be a host. Like, go out there and guest on other podcasts so other people
yeah,
know that your podcast exists and that you're now supporting other podcasters, having them someone to talk to, share with, vibe with, on the stream. And so I think that's a beautiful thing. So if y'all
yeah,
listening and you're creating your podcast store or you're hesitant or you're not as confident, the confidence grows as the journey goes. And so if you're not putting it in, you're not going to find that confidence in yourself, and you're not going to, really get out there and do what it do. But just know somebody
yeah,
needs you in the world.
yeah. What was it when you started podcasting? What would you say was the biggest challenge you faced, and how did you overcome?
My biggest challenge faced with podcasting was feeling, will somebody get enough out of this? Is my story
Mm,
enough for someone to find value in it? Or am I just talking just to be talking? And so that was one of my biggest struggles, was making sure that every single episode, somebody could get something from it. Will they get something from it? And then I realized that's not for me to decide. It's
Yeah.
for them because I don't know what part of my story, what part of my guest story, what part of the information, because not all episodes are empowering. Some of them are educational, you know? And so it's like, do they know this already? Like sometimes wisdom, I'll put information out there like, you know, five things you can do if you're experiencing fibroids holistically. And it's like, well, did they already know this? And it's like, well, Jovonnie, if more people already knew this, don't you think less people would be impacted, less people would be struggling? And so sometimes it's saying, is what I'm putting out valuable enough? That was one of my struggles at the beginning, wisdom. It was like, well, I don't want to just give people dead, low energy, not low energy, but like dead information that's really not going to help them with anything. And I
Yeah.
had like a friend who was really into it, and she ended up being a coaching client, and she absolutely loves the podcast and never listened to podcasts until she listened to mine. And now
Wow.
she's just looking forward to hearing every episode and getting valuable takeaways from everybody's guests. Like, oh, they were great storytellers, or I love when they said this, or this was a bar. And it's just like, okay. So it is value in your story. Like there is
Yeah.
value in this conversation. Everybody don't know everything. And so what you do know, what your experience is, and what you're expert in is valuable to someone. It's not valuable to everyone. And so I
Yeah.
think that was one of my biggest struggles at the beginning. And now it's just, let's get this thing on and popping, wisdom. One episode at a time. Jovonnie's getting out
Yeah.
here on the airways.
Yeah. The queen of the airways. Oh wow. I think for a long time when we've been in the feed, we like, oh yeah, but this thing is basic. Why should I be talking about it? But then what you realize is that what's common to one is not common to all. There are a lot of persons that they have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. They're like, yeah. And then the other part about them already know. There are books that I've read like 5, 10, 15 times, right? Again and again, because the book is just so valuable. And so I don't mind listening to it again because like every time I'm being reminded of, the valuable concepts from the book. So sometimes great content is that way. Right? If someone tells you, oh, you need to, some of the healthy habits, you need to do this, you need to do, even as someone who, you already know that stuff, right? It's good to be reminded.
Thank you for that wisdom.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me know that sometimes it don't have to be new news. It could just be your friendly reminders here.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that what creativity is all about? Making the
Mhm.
new seem old and the old seem new.
Ooh,
But
I'm
that's not
with
me.
it.
That's Shakespeare.
Yeah, I'm with it. I didn't say it was,
Ah,
but I needed to
ah,
hear that. I needed to hear
okay,
that.
okay. I want us to look at the behind the scenes of the podcast, right? How does the
Okay.
podcast get made? How often do you release episode? Is the podcast video? Is it audio only?
So
How do you
behind the
cook?
scenes, what does the podcast look like? So
Yeah,
for
that's true.
me,
We're talking about
huh?
podcasts. I just realized. How do you cook your podcast? I remember we were talking about food. Yeah. How do you cook your
How do you
podcast?
cook
Tell me
your
what are the
podcast?
recipes you use?
No. Okay, so
uh,
the recipe, this is what I do. This how I cook it up.
yeah,
So what I do is I love to have, if I'm with a guest, I love having guests on the podcast. I love talking to other people versus just having solo episodes and me talking myself, which I've done both. And I think sometimes it's important to just have that conversation with your audience versus bringing on,
yeah,
like consistent guests, insights, expertise. I love talking to other guests. My guests apply to be on the podcast. I have a little Google form for them to fill out, get some information from them, things they'd like to discuss, just who they are, if they have a healing journey, if there was any kind of chronic issues that they dealt with, so we can get a little bit personal insights in regards to that, or how do they help people, with holistic options and different ways. Have them drop their picture already, so I have something for the thumbnail, like that
yeah,
one-stop shop in a Google form is how they apply. And then we have a pre-recording. Like we got to vibe first so I can get a little bit to know of your story. Because I feel like if I get to vibe with you first and we get a little meeting, maybe ask you like 2 or 3 questions, I have a better idea of how we can approach the conversation when we actually record. So that way it's not like, well, hey, how are you? You know what I'm saying? Those
yeah.
first conversation things, we can actually get valuable, get a little bit of deeper insights when we get on the actual podcast. And then I pre-record with them using Streamyard at the time. And then every week I drop an episode and I drop it on YouTube for the video version. So on my YouTube channel, I have the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast playlist. And then I utilize RedCircle for my audio, and it's on all
Wow,
podcast
RedCircle.
distributors.
Wow,
Yep, so I use all
that's
that's where the audio goes for, all of my audio podcasts. So for Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of that, I use RedCircle to, utilize that platform to push everything out.
the and What do you use Streamyard for editing?
I use StreamYard
What do you use for
for
editing?
huh?
What do you use for editing the podcast?
What I use to rate the podcast?
Edit.
Edit. So, Wisdom, that's a very good question. I don't edit. I do not edit. Edit is not my area of expertise. And because I have yet to monetize my podcast, I don't want that to stop me from producing and putting out episodes. So I don't edit. I actually start the podcast with a good intro. I drop my music during the recording itself. I hit play. I get my little intro in on the podcast, and then I go right into the conversation. And so from beginning to end, whatever that's what goes up. That's what goes up. It is raw. No edits being done. I just go into StreamYard. I download the audio. I download the video. The video goes up on YouTube. The audio goes up on RedCircle. And you got another episode of the Empowered Place, Empowered Lives podcast. Now, the 2 episodes I did have to edit. I had to go and get someone to edit for me. I had to pay for it. The edit was 1, my dog started barking during an episode. And then 2, I had this one guest who did it on her phone, and she kept getting like calls, even though her phone was on Do Not Disturb. And it was causing me an option of trying to hurry up and pause. So in StreamYard, you can hit pause on the recording. And so like if I start getting a Wi-Fi disconnection, I can hit pause. And, I can just bring it back in the conversation. I'll just be like, all right, y'all, I'm going to hit play. I'm going to say this question. Or if they were mid-talk, I would just say, when I get on, I'm going to go like this. And you just go ahead and start talking and letting them know that we're back to the recording. But it was only those 2 instances where I had to like go get someone to edit because calls were coming in or my dog was barking and I couldn't put pause quick enough to make sure the background was there. But I do not edit, Wisdom. I do not. And maybe if I did, it would be more of an elevated experience. But right now, I'm just giving you the value within the conversation and the experiences shared. And whenever I get to a monetized state, maybe that's when I'll start adding more touches, more team members to help elevate that production of the podcast. But I'm not letting it stop me right now.
I'm looking at your podcast on my mobile phone, and and I'm seeing you already have a thumbnail template with the text, and
I do, but Wisdom, and this is to anybody with a podcast story. If you go back and look at the beginning episodes, you will see the growth over time, because what the thumbnail looks like now, it was definitely not what the thumbnail looked like episodes 1 through 20 or 30. Like the experience elevates and you start to find ways to get better at what you're doing. You're sharpening your skill sets. But I mean, I was like floating in the thumbnail, body not down, not right placement. So what they say is do it ugly. But I'm going to say, instead of do it ugly, I'm going to say do it anyhow. Like, do it anyhow.
Yeah,
Do it
it's all
anyhow.
about stats. The thing most persons don't recognize is that if you knew how to do it better, you do it better. But right now you don't. So just do it the way you know how
Agreed.
to. Eventually you figure out how to do it better, right? And then it's just becomes it's just easier to do it better than right. It's just easy, right? And so I like when you mentioned editing, I was like, okay, if you were to edit, what would you even be doing in the edit? Is to remove probably the noise, maybe some of the awkward silences.
If I was to have it edited, what I would do is I would have like maybe one of the biggest pieces of the conversation, like maybe the greatest bar, the highest value peak of the episode. I would have them pull that clip out, put that in the front of the episode. So that could be the live conversation already being had, like a trailer type thing. And then bring in the introduction.
Yeah,
me
that's
having
true.
a
I
conversation.
do that
Like that would be
sometimes.
the major part I would have. And it's whatever introduction I give you and about the conversation that's about to be had. Hit the music, we vibing, and then it goes into conversation. Like it's I feel like that would hook more people if I was to take that most probably valuable aspect of the conversation, put it in the front, and that's going to say, okay, let me stop and listen to this. Like let me not go screen, like go past this one just quiet. Let me give it more than 3 seconds if you see it on YouTube, or if you're listening, like, okay, this title looks good. Let me hit play. It's not getting there for me just quite yet. But if I hit at a nice high point, of the conversation, even if it's not even my voice and it's my guest sharing something very valuable
Yeah.
or story. I
That
think
hooks
that
them. Yeah.
right there would be like the vibe wisdom. Like that's what I would want to happen if I paid for that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's okay. I'm just going to suggest this, right? You don't have to do that. It's just, I just want to let you know of the possibility. Right, I use Riverside right now. That's what we're currently recording. I don't know Streamyard, so I can't really tell you what the software does or not. On Riverside, I can live stream, all right, and I also do my recording. Once I'm done with recording, what it does is that it transcribes everything into a Word document. So what would happen is that when I make changes to the text, it will be affected in the video. Does that mean if I delete a word, it will delete it in the video? And so when I just scroll through, which it takes me about 2 minutes to scroll through the text, I see the part that has a. And currently, while we're having this conversation, if you say something really nice and quotable, I can just click on mark clip. I can add, I can mark a clip, right? I can click on it. That way, when I want to edit, it will show the marker on the timeline, right? And then if there's a place where you were dropping, oh fuck, no, this, and I'll just, how you select Word document, you select it, you copy it, and I'll go to the beginning and I'll paste it, right? And that's it. I have my intro ready.
That sounds
Right.
dope.
So the other thing is that I don't know if Streamyard does that thing, then you probably don't have to
I don't
switch.
think they do. I think my one thing with Riverside, and I'm so happy that you talked about this because we actually tried this on Thursday. So I go live on every Thursday on my YouTube channel with
Okay.
a co-host, Shireen. She's in Canada. I'm in the US. She has a podcast. I have a podcast. We started our podcast around the same time and went to a podcast conference before we launched. And so we have this thing called Herbal Tea Thursday Wellness Live series, and she wanted to try Riverside. The only thing that stopped us from doing Riverside
Okay.
last week or changing to that platform was when we go live on YouTube and we use StreamYard, she can stream to her Facebook and YouTube audience and it goes on her channel, and then mine will go to my Facebook and YouTube audience. And so we can share. We go like, yeah. So when we are
Oh.
streaming, I'm in front of her audience, she's in front of my audience, and we get to
Yeah.
bring our audiences together when we stream. And that was the one thing
Yeah.
that Riverside didn't allow. But she
Huh.
has podcast clients, and so she was like, "Imma do this for my clients because now I get clips, I get like you said, the text for the blogs, like, now she can have blog articles, and different experts or emails, being able to take some of that chunk and put it in, like, an email, to her email list, and so when you just said that about the clip, but she also said, like, you can almost get rid of Opus because I use Opus for my clips and let
Yeah.
Opus
Yeah.
find my clips just to promote the episodes. And I didn't mention that, but after I record, I would take, a previous recorded episode and I'll drop it in Opus, get some clips, and I'll put it in short form content just to link in my stories that actual episode to help promote it in the event that people want to go see that episode. And maybe I have a theme for the month. So if it was men's health for June, I had all the men podcasts. Like I chose 4 men, had 4 different
Yeah.
episodes every week, and put out clips from that episode based on their stories, their journey on the podcast. But I love the sound of that because it was like almost taking out Opus clips and just using Riverside to streamline the process for podcasting. But when you share a space weekly with someone else on another thing, you want to be able to have your own audience. I thought that would be a big plus. So
Yeah, that's true. I'll confirm if Riverside does that, and if they do, I'll let you know. I
thank
don't
you,
know if you do.
wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for me. I'm always thinking about how can I, simplify the amount of tools I'm using while also maximizing the
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 platforms.
features. Yeah, because I'm paying for it
Mhm.
anyway, whether I use it or
That
not. So
part,
I
same.
might as well use it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Okay. Um, you, if Riverside does do that, and you adopt it, what that will happen is that it will make you able to do the production. And the thing I like about it, and I just pointed out, is that sometimes your guest audio, right? You have great guests, they have great energy, but their audio, it's not bad, but it's how do I explain? Right. So the thing now is with Riverside, they have I don't know if Streamyard they have it. They have what they call magic audio. You get to you can touch on the audio, and it will spice it up a bit, while making it sound a little bit like studio quality. And that way, even though you have guests that from all over with different gear, and some they don't even have gear, you can remove that. And sometimes some person, some guests, right? It's not background noise. Sometimes their computer, the phone, right? So how do you tell them to put up to put up the right? And so it's just there. It's that humming sound, right? And so it's just touch on it and it remove all that, and that way it's easy to edit and export the clips and put it out there. And now Riverside does make thumbnail. Yeah. So what it would do is when you prompt it, it will take screenshots of the images of the guest, and then put a text and just put it out there. It's basic. It's not like it's not advanced, but it has come up with some pretty good stuff, especially if the guest is on, they're well lit, and everything it's fine.
It's nice. Do you like it? Do you think it's pretty accurate when it comes to the thumbnails? Or it's still kinda in beta mode, like, it has to get better over time?
Yeah, it has to get better. But like for a first impression, I'm quite I'm surprised at how good it is. No, I'm just hoping it eventually gets better. And yeah, so I like that's why I just like Riverside. And I also get the part of StreamYard. For me, I'm like, everybody's doing text. If StreamYard could do that text parts, right? That would be nice, because now you don't even have to switch. You just copy and paste and put it there, rather than having to
Agreed.
write, go play the audio, because it's easier to find a really nice moment by reading the text rather than playing it all through.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think we're not there yet to find that one platform that does it all, you know? And I think that what I have seen, which I think for me will be valuable right now, I just stream to Instagram and Facebook. Really don't do much with Facebook at all, but sometimes people go to Facebook to see about your presence. Do you even have a presence there? And
Yeah.
so I'm okay with that for that Thursday, or when I do my juice prep live streams, or like those types of things where I can use StreamYard to do my lives versus StreamYard just like to do my recordings, my podcast recordings. But I feel like a lot of times people like to go live on TikTok. And none of these platforms really allow you to also stream to
Yeah.
TikTok, YouTube, and like Instagram or Facebook. And so I feel like TikTok gets left out of the mix. But I could see myself, wisdom, as I continue to evolve, doing more to add in LinkedIn, more of the
Yeah, that's
professionals
true.
around the world.
Quick break. Before we continue, I'd love to invite you to join the My Podcast Story newsletter. Each week, I share highlights from our guest stories, behind the scenes podcasting tips, and resources to help you grow your own show. You can sign up at mypodcaststory.com/join. That is mypodcaststory.com/join. Now, let's get back to the episode. So it does LinkedIn. Yeah.
And StreamYard does LinkedIn too. So I could see
Yeah.
myself doing like YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and doing live streams with those three platforms, and I would be okay because I'm not huge on TikTok. And there's always different things changing when it comes to
Yeah.
TikTok in our country. So it's not, I know a lot of people blow up on TikTok, more people know them, but I don't want to exert all of my energy all over the
Okay.
place.
Uh, let me. Okay. There's something I've been thinking of recently. There is a tool, right? And we talked about making clips. And one of the things you've noticed about all these platforms is they copy features. And so if you have Instagram reel, you can post it on YouTube, you can post it on TikTok, you can post it on Facebook page, right? It's the same thing. You basically don't have to change anything. And so there's a software. That's what the software does, is that once you set it up and connect your different accounts and say, okay, when I post a YouTube shorts or an Instagram reel, right, depending on the major platform you post these vertical videos on, it will go ahead, take it, download it, remove the watermark that those platforms put on the content, and then repost it on your other platforms, TikTok. So you get content dropping on all these other platforms without you even log into the platform. So it's just a way to be active on it, drop some content. It gets in eyeballs in front of people. Plus, you're not trading your time, right? Once in a while, if you're like, oh yeah, that's true. I do have this account. What's going on here? And right, maybe once in a month, you just check to see things, like a couple of comments, right? But you don't have to spend your time there. And right, pretty much it's just set it and forget it.
Love the sound of that.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that because I
Yeah.
was at a place, and I don't know if somebody else, when you're starting your podcast, feeling like you need to be on every single platform just to let people know that you exist and where to lock in and tune in and get the full value from you. But it can be very draining to, sit down and really schedule out content and schedule out the content and the different types of content to then go out there and put that on different platforms. I did use
Yeah.
a scheduler for me, and I had them all linked on. But even that took hours to, find the clips, get the titles, get the caption, get the hashtags, and really know what time of day I'm scheduling. There was one time, Wisdom, where I was dropping like 4 posts a day.
Wow.
And then it went
That's
to 3
intense.
posts. Yeah, and then 3 posts, and I was cranking it out. And what I was told or was advised, it was all about the volume, that you gotta get out there so more people can get it. And if you think they saw it already, they didn't, because everybody didn't see it based on all the people that, are following you or
Uh,
not following you. Like, they see it and they keep on moving depending on the platform. And so it's like all this volume, volume, volume. And I started to get drained. And then I also started to feel like, well, maybe this isn't good enough because I wasn't seeing the conversions. I saw slow subscriber count and it was consistent, but it slowly came. And it was like, that's good. Because if I think about it, if I had all my subscribers in one room, that's a lot of people in one room, even
yeah.
though it's not 1,000 people, like
Yeah.
that's still a lot of people who you didn't force to hit subscribe.
Yeah.
They
They
wanted to
like you and they're
subscribe.
total strangers.
Yeah, and I was like, but,
Yeah.
and who knows how many of those are real people, not real people, whatever the case may
Yeah.
be, but that's not my business, you know what I mean? The part was I had content out there that they could see that they would wanna subscribe to or like it or comment, but it was starting to make me feel like the more I cranked out, I wasn't seeing that come back in return, as much work as
Yeah.
I was doing to put out there, and it was just like, "Okay, now I'm second guessing myself. Now am I wondering, am I doing it right? Do I need to change my content? Do I need to do content like how other people are doing content?" And it was just like, slow it down, be intentional, get a strategy, but just know however you show up, how you show up every week is up to you. At least you're showing up for your people, and for them to know you even exist. And so I just had to slow it down, Wisdom, to really get intentional and more strategic and not just push out
Yeah.
volumes of content wanting any and everybody to just know I exist because they see it. Because I also don't want to get silenced or muted. Like, I know people be like, every time I get on the app, I see you, mute, let me turn you off because I'm tired of seeing you all the time. Like,
No,
I don't
no, no.
want I don't want to be
Nah.
that annoying to
No,
that
no. People,
situation.
as long as you're not posting spam, right? As long as
Yeah.
and they followed you because they like your content. If they don't like your content anymore, they won't follow you. But for me, I always like to see content from the people I subscribe to, right? To be reminded, if I want to consume it, I consume it. If not, I move on, right? And what you just mentioned is one of the things I'm trying to fix and deal with, right? Because I'm making episodes and I have valuable content, but I'm not satisfied with just releasing the episodes on the podcast, and that's the end of the line. I know that this thing is valuable. Like this conversation, I know there's so many great points that I could put out there in the world. So the problem I have now is if I could find a way to pull those sections out of it without having to do it every time and then distribute it to these platforms, right? And one of the things I talked about is this tool, Repurposing. I'm not an affiliate for the tool. It's just good. I've not started using it, but it's good. I used it one time, then I was just playing around. But now that I'm doing a podcast, I'm like, oh yeah, I did use this, so I should use it now. So if I could focus on just one platform, one reach, right? Let's say we focus on YouTube Shorts, like just YouTube. We don't do any other platforms. And so what it does is that when I post my vertical shots, right, it will take it out and it will send it to all those other platforms without me having to be active on 10, 20 different platforms. But yet, content is going out on every platform. And people go to LinkedIn, they see me. People go this place, they see me. And what it does, it can resize the video for the different platform
I
automatically.
love that because I
With
hate
that,
going into the scheduler and it's saying, "Oh, this is not the fit for Facebook," or "This isn't the fit that can go right for YouTube, but it
yeah.
works for Instagram or TikTok." And I'm like, "Listen."
Yeah, and you can also put so custom text, right? Like in Instagram, at the top there'll be a text at the top, and then at the beginning, and then the video will be at the center. So you could do those things, and then what you could also do is you could also put some custom settings that I don't want all my vertical clips to go out to this platform, so I only want clips that have a certain hashtag to be reposted. So what will happen is that when you're posting on YouTube, you just add that hashtag. Let's say you just come up with a creative hashtag, and so because you set a hashtag, that will be the only post that will be reposted. And so you don't have to tinker with all those things. And so the content gets dropped on all this platform. Because the thing is that it's not that we don't have valuable content, we do, but it's just that it takes a lot of time. And and so it's stressful. So if we could find a way, there AI tools, the automations out there, and if we could find a way to to really leverage those platforms, that would be nice, and
That would
get
be
in front of
very
people.
nice. And
Yeah,
I
because we
thought
have a
about it
message.
before Wisdom. I think one strategy I did use, and I don't know if I got many subscribers from it, but it was something that somebody told me, like YouTube. I would, if I had to choose a platform, I think YouTube would be that one
Yeah,
platform that I would just lock in,
yeah,
and just really figure out strategically how to grow. And not really be as phased with the Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever. YouTube would be that place for me. And what I was told was like I could take, and this is something that I use Opus for, but take my podcast episode because it's longer form, maybe about like an hour. I've had one podcast, I've had like 2 hours, an hour and a half before when I just had the
yeah.
conversation and I really didn't
Growing.
care about like, let's just package it in an hour and be okay with people's like attention spans. And so that's a bar for somebody who needs to know, like, have the conversation. If the conversation is flowing, have the conversation because there's some people who have 3 hour long podcasts and there's people who will sit there and listen and make the time for the 3 hour podcast if they find that
Yeah,
information valuable. So don't try to say, oh, I'm just going to do 20 minutes because people's attention span is short. If the conversation is vibing and people can get good value from it and there's aspects that are still on topic that can help your audience based on who you're showing up for, not just yourself, like have the conversation. Let it flow and know that people can always pause and come back to it whenever. But if there's not, you know what I mean? I just want somebody to know
yeah,
that because you don't have to be there. But what they told me Wisdom was take the podcast and clip it like 5-10 minute clips out
yeah,
of it. And then it'll give people a good chunk of the conversation and then leave the link for the full episode for them to go check it out if now they want to go finish listening to more of the episode or get more context around that piece that you pulled out. So
that's
I don't know if that's
very
something that
brilliant.
you would
That's
like
very
to
brilliant.
use, but creating a playlist on your
Yeah,
YouTube outside of the podcast for those snippets of like 5 to 10 minutes, or you could do 10
yeah,
to 15 minutes of the conversation to where people might want to come for that shorter amount of time. And what I want
yeah,
to get away from Wisdom is shorts because people say if they're subscribed, I get a lot of people that subscribe because of my short form content, but not necessarily the long form. But the long form is where the value is. The long form is where I'm really pouring a lot into the juice prep live streams or the
yeah,
interviews that I do out in the streets when I'm interviewing, Black plant-based restaurants or wellness businesses. And then in addition to that, the podcast is a playlist itself. And so long form is my focus. Shorts is just to try to let you know it's the commercials,
yeah,
it's the clips, it's the hey, this is what I'm doing. But if you're only here just to get that snippet, you're never going to get the real value that I have for you.
yeah, yeah,
That's in a longer form, but it's something for everybody because some people don't always want to watch or listen to everything. And so they say on YouTube, either choose long form or short form. If you like shorts, create a whole new channel that's just for your shorts. That could then lead them to your long form channel. And it's just like, well, now I'm not about to have two channels. So let me just get in a habit
yeah,
of producing more long content with the snippets, with the playlist that might be, you know what I'm saying? A list of
yeah,
different things that happen in addition to the other playlist I have, and just build up the long form and slowly but surely stop pushing out the short form on
yeah.
YouTube and let
Yeah,
them
that's
get what I
that's
have for
that's true. There's I've been thinking of because I've gotten the part of creating content, getting guests, interviewing them, dieting, and so the part I'm working on is I already have valuable content. How do I distribute it in front of people? And so I know what it means to have an email list, right? Newsletters. And because what I have a different brand where I've been going that for like 5 years and I've been on and off, right? Sometimes I ghost my subscribers for like 5 months and then I come back, right? But the thing about the newsletter is that I don't have to go through an algorithm, right? You could have 10K followers on Instagram, yet you post a post and only 20 people see it, and you're like, what's going on, right? But with newsletters, I think last week I sent a newsletter and I sent an email and I was like, oh yeah, I'm working on a challenge next month, and I got two persons to respond to me, and you're like, oh yeah, sure, we'd love to do this, right? And that's what I want to be working on ultimately with my social platforms, not just to get views, right? So what I'll be doing is, I think the automation tools, if someone likes your post, you can send them a DM If someone comments on your post on Instagram, you can send them a DM. And these things, you set it such that it's automatic, right? You don't have to go wait. And so when they post, you can put in the custom message that you send to them. So thank you so much. I'm so glad that you love whatever the topic is, food and all those things. And so it's a pre message, and then you're like, oh, I do have a newsletter where I send this every week, and if you I would love if you subscribe, right? And you send them a DM, and then they'll probably click on it and subscribe. If not, they move on. But what happens is that instead of just posting posts, because a lot of time we're like, I want to post on Instagram, I want to get views. I don't really care about views, right? For me, I want a way that I can build a community such that I can keep on communicating with those people regardless of algorithm. Because what will happen is that the day you stop posting on Instagram and that's it, right? That doesn't really work well. And plus, since we're talking about monetization, if we have an email list of, let's say, 5,000 persons, 10,000 persons, when we're talking about sponsorships, collaborations, coaching, and all those things, it's easier because now you're like, oh yeah, I have 5,000 email subscribers. Plus, you can also, when you create a product in the future, you're like, oh yeah, I did have. You can send an email directly to them, and it'll get to their inbox without having to say, oh, the Instagram, like, I don't like her face today. Like, nah, right? And it doesn't get so those platforms, the followers doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really
I like
interest me that
that.
much.
I like that wisdom. And I think that's a beautiful part of the conversation that I hope people get from it is pulling them off the platform. Like not thinking so
Yeah,
much about the community you're trying to attract, the audience you're trying to build on a platform, but pulling them off and giving them something of value after they
yeah,
meet you that they're willing to connect with. And I think
yeah.
that comes with another level though, wisdom. So my question is, how did you build your emailing list to where you could then start providing them with newsletters to, hold value and give value and pour
Okay,
into them? What was some of your main ways that people just started to, join your email list so
okay.
then you could build up your email campaign?
Currently, I have 425 subscribers on the email list. Not for this not for this brand, a different brand entirely. 425. And how I built that was pretty simple. I used my website. That it was back in the days when you could get traffic from Google. So I would write articles and blog posts, right? And when they land on the website, I had a pop up, right? That would come up and say, oh yeah, I'm this. That's true. I've never really created a lead magnet.
I
I
love
just
the
did.
fact that you
I
said
just.
that because that's the industry standard today. It's always lead
Yeah.
magnet, lead magnet, lead magnet. Give them a lead magnet.
Yeah. For me, I think the reason why they even need to act more is because there's a premise, right? So I just like, I'm like, hey, the pop-up comes on. I'm really personal. I'm like, hey, my name is, I mention my name, and I'm like, every week, every Friday, I send this, and I'm pretty specific on what I send. I'm like, I send, okay, it's a creative writing brand. So I'm like, I send 2 prompts, stuff like that, right? So it's clear what you're going to get, right? So it's not like, oh, I send you an email, right? I'm like, oh, if for maybe Empowered Lives, Empowered Plays, like I send you one, you find a way to make it specific fun, right? Rather than I send you valuable newsletter. I'm like, what's that? I don't know what that means. Right?
Gotcha.
And so they know what they're getting. And so because of that promise, and they join and they subscribe, and pretty much that's it. And then I just send them a newsletter every week. I'm trying to be consistent, but for some while I've not been fulfilling that promise. But I send in a newsletter every week, and people have been responding. People send me messages. Sometimes when I share my own personal story in newsletter too, along with the things I write, and so they send me messages. And there was one time someone sent me a message, and she told me that because I was like, I'm going to participate in the poetry marathon that someone else was organizing. I just mentioned it in passing, right, in the newsletter. And she responded later on that, oh yeah, I did participate in that marathon, and that was really lovely. Thank you so much. I was just talking. I didn't expect that you go participate in the match. And that for me it just showed me the power of having to be able to talk to your audience directly. So even if it's 600, 1,000, right? It doesn't really matter because I'd rather have 500 email newsletter subscribers than have 10,000 followers on Instagram anytime, any day,
Agreed.
without thinking twice. And so if tomorrow I decide to come up with a course, right, I could send in a newsletter. So yeah, that's what I'm offering a program and stuff like that, and I get people to click and buy, right,
I
directly
like
without having to
that.
say, oh, how do I make this email viral?
That part. And
Yeah.
I like it. So I guess my next question, wisdom, would be how easy is it for someone to create a newsletter to send out to their email list? And
Okay.
is there certain aspects to newsletters that really help them be engaging that make people want to respond back once they get the
Okay.
newsletter?
Okay, the first thing is that once they've subscribed, You're pretty much giving your email. So whatever email you send to them will get sent to them, right? But the thing that's very important is the subject line, right? The and that's the thing I've noticed that has really affected me. The moment people sign up for the newsletter, you want to start communicating with them as soon as possible. Because what that means is that, let's say I just saw you, a random person on Instagram, I subscribed to your newsletter, and I'm hearing from you 2 months later, I've forgotten about you. And now I'm looking at my email and I'm like, who are you? I'm seeing your name, I'm like, Jovonnie. I'm like, who are you? And I scroll past, right? And the whole idea is that what I do is I have a welcome automation, right? It's once you sign up, I send you an email and I'm like, I introduce myself and this is me. Thank you so much for subscribing, and this is what you get. And then I tell them that it takes me about 3 hours to write a newsletter, and what did I say? And it takes you about 3 minutes to read it, right? Right? I put in my personality into it, and then I'm like, I would love if you can send me a message to to just show me that how do I put now? I'm trying to see if I can read the script. Oh, my laptop. Okay, let me just pull out the script so it's I don't have to be saying this. So I send them a message. The whole idea of getting them to respond is the email providers, right? The if you respond to an email, it shows that email is not spam, right? It's an indicator that email is not spam. And so what happens if they respond, if I send in an email in the future, their email will not get put into the promotion box or the spam folder, right? And so a lot of times they respond, and that's it. They send me, they just say hi, hello, and okay, yeah, let me even read the message. I'm right there. Okay, oh yeah, that's true. Edit step. Okay, welcome sequence. How do I even? I'm trying to just a moment. I'm trying to see if I can. Oh yeah, that's true. I can see the message, and then the message is the subject lines. You are in. What's next? Right? And it's like, hey, I mention my name. Thank you for thanks for subscribing. I really appreciate it. I send one newsletter every Friday, right? So it gives them when to look forward for my newsletter. One small favor, please reply to this email with hi, my name, right? So hi, wisdom. So make sure you actually get the emails. It only takes 10 seconds. Writing each newsletter takes me 3 hours.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, and so they send me hi, right? And that way it gets the platforms to know that okay, this is not a spam, and we should put it in the primary folder because this guy has been interacting with this newsletter pretty often. And one of the things I also know that works really well is if you're on your website, you tell them you empower lives, empower plates, right? If that's your website, right? And you don't want to go on in the newsletter and start using a different name. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Because
and that does
yeah,
make sense, Wisdom, because actually, like, the business is called Four Vibrations, but the
okay.
podcast is called Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives. So if they don't understand the entities and how it links and what the actual coaching business is and, everything like that in regards to the podcast, remember, because the podcast started as the
Yeah.
way to get brand awareness. And so that could be confusing. And so I like that you mentioned that too.
Yeah.
Like, don't start changing and switching up names.
What you do is don't even, what you just do is just put your name instead of doing full vibration empower people podcast. You're the key person. You're the business. Like the business revolves around you, right? At least, right?
Yeah.
It's not like so it's not like you're working for a different company, right? So you put your name. So anywhere they see Jovonnie, they're like, oh yeah, I know her, right? So in the website, you introduce, hi, I'm Jovonnie. I'd love for you to join stuff like that. And so when they subscribe, the name there. And so instead of it to show four vibrations, how when you get to right the name, not the subject line, it shows Jovonnie, right? So that way they know. Because a lot of the times when I go through my email, right, I just scan through and I know the people that give me value. So I'm like, oh yeah, click on this, right? Yeah, and I don't even look at subject line because I now trust them, right? And so you don't want to confuse people because most of the times it doesn't really matter the subject line you use. If people look at you and like, I don't know you, who are you? It doesn't really matter, right? And so that's the sequence pretty much. I use Convert Kit and it's free.
ConvertKit.
Yeah, for up to 10,000 subscribers. So
Yeah. I have
I have a
less
long way
than
to go.
100. I think I might be around 50, 60-ish
Okay.
emails. And I started them when I started the podcast because I always have some type of lead magnet in my podcast description. but I only sent 1 email out of the 2 years wisdom, and that email
Ooh.
probably came, like, 2 months ago, maybe. I
Hmm.
think I might have did June, of sending my first email because it was all about trying to get the podcast regulated, and then it was like, "Well, what do I send email? How do I even use my CRM to
Yeah.
even send the email to have the email marketing part?" So it's like, "How do I get this back activated?" And people were like, not even back activated, but activated at all. I think I
Yeah.
only launched it to let them know that I was holding like a free training, like a webinar, and letting them know about it and inviting them to that. But I feel like a series would be good, even if the
Yeah.
introduction would be talking about a newsletter. And maybe I put the newsletter out on Fridays for 4 Vibrations Friday, as a way to be
Yeah.
like at the end of
Yeah.
the week type thing. Since the podcast goes out on Wednesday, I can feature the podcast that just dropped in that newsletter. Like I have to figure out the components of the
Yeah.
newsletter. How easy is the newsletter to have? But what I love most about the insight that you just gave, Wisdom, was your emphasis on the value of having a website. And I think sometimes people don't realize how powerful having a website is because it's almost like if you don't have a literal storefront, a place for people to be able to know that you
Yeah.
even exist before just finding you on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, to know that you have a podcast, but knowing that there is a brand that exists with a website, with a domain, like you have let's say property, real estate in this thing
Yeah.
called business or branding. And so I love seeing how you talked about allowing your website to really be a place to house your community and giving them the
Yeah.
chance to lock in. And so I could definitely see that. I've seen multiple people say, take your podcast, take certain aspects of that podcast conversation, turn it into a blog, have that blog go onto your platform, your website, I mean, and then have that blog also be highlighted in your email marketing, and then have that blog created into like 2 or 3 reels or short form content and put that out there. Like I've seen so many people take one piece of work, one podcast episode, and change it into so many different pieces of content that can hit people in so many different ways because they say you have to have certain amount of touch points from each person before they even
Yeah.
want to give you an email or money or any type of conversion activity that you would want from them because they have to build that know, like, and trust factor. And so I love that you're reminding me of the power of some of the things that I already have and how to truly get a system in place to have those things work for me. Because once you know those people exist because they've committed to you, it's easy for them to respond to what you have versus
Yeah.
focusing on trying to get so many more
Yeah,
people to
more.
lock in
And
when
these
you
people are
got
just for
people that
vanity
exist.
metrics. You want to get
Mhm.
views, get followers. So people, hey, I'm the thing. And the thing is, tomorrow Instagram wake up and say, oh yeah, she violated the policy, ban her account, suspend the account, and they're like, yeah, but I lost my followers. Basically, there's nothing you can do. Right? You can try to appeal, but there's really nothing you can do. And I think email list is the only thing that you really own. Tomorrow you can take it anywhere you want and send emails from wherever you want. But that's yours. Nobody can take it from you. And so that for me is I'm like, it should always end there because I could get someone to listen to my podcast, but not everybody listens to podcasts, right? But I have a message that message is beyond just podcast, right? It's about getting people to share their message, just like food, eating, having a healthy habit. That's the message. We chose podcasting as the medium, right? But we want to get in front of people, and so one of the things I like to do is I think of it this way: is like if someone was to open my newsletter and not click on any link or anything, how can I provide value for them such that they're like, wow, this stuff is really valuable, right? Without having to click. But if they want to get more value, they can click on it and go get more value. Because a lot of persons, they just send them like, oh, go check out the podcast. And I'm like, why? They've already opened this newsletter. You should give them value. And so if they want more value, they should go check it out. And that is, I've been repurposing some of my podcasts, and I'm really surprised at what AI does, right? Once you create a prompt and everything, it goes in, writes the part. It can even pull in exactly word for word quotes that the guest talked about. And that way, they go through it. It's inspiring. It gives them value. And if they really want to, it amps them up to say, wow, this is the highlights and I'm getting so much value from it. Or the full session look like. And so they click on it. And that way it's also nice because instead of getting people to listen to your podcast, which is nice, and if you get them into your newsletter, you can always remind them to listen to more podcasts month after month, week after week, even for years to come. Rather than someone you run an ad, someone listens to your podcast, and yeah, if they maybe they might have a bad day, they might not really be in the frame of mind, so they don't really go back to the podcast. They forget, they move on, and so that's it. But if you get them to the newsletter, you can say, yeah, that's true. We've rebranded the podcast. We're launching a new season. You should go check it out. And then you could also ask them, oh, that's true. I'm working on some sessions. What would you want to do? What are you struggling with, right? That's direct communication. And they can just respond and say, Jovonnie, I've been working with this, and boom, send it and you get the email. Without having them to go click on the website, do a form, that's nice, but yeah, it's it's not necessary. And so
It's not. And I
it's what
thank
I
you
want to
for
double down on.
reminding me
Yeah.
of that too, because I like that idea of wisdom because I think sometimes, and I don't know if somebody else can resonate, I want people to engage with my content. I want them
Yeah.
to respond. I want them like the prompt is there, it's in the caption. I'm asking a question. And when I can see other people who have, so many more followers and maybe their content is, more provoking them to respond than
Yeah.
maybe mine, it's just like I want you to tell me. Tell me what it is that you want. Tell me what you like. What it is that you're struggling with right now, so I can be able to provide more value. I have more insight, and it's just like getting that engagement can feel like you're pulling teeth sometimes. And so, like I can see the power of what it looks like to have a active email list that is willing to respond because they are already okay with talking to you because they committed to you by giving you their
Yeah.
email address to be able to tell you without hesitation, "Oh, I see your email. Yeah, this is what I need." This like you talked about earlier. "Yeah, I'm down for that challenge. Let me know." Everybody might not say yes, but people that are interested already and familiar with you, they pretty much are going to like what it is that you have to put out there because that was the
Yeah.
reason why they committed
Yeah, that's it.
to
And like,
your
except of
vibe as a
course,
person.
you're borderline spammy. That's when they were like, oh no, this, yeah. But most of the time, we're we deliver on the promise we promised them in the first place, and they can always unsubscribe if they want to. So it's not like you're locked in or forced. And
Yeah,
I love if they unsubscribe because I don't want to be sending emails to someone who doesn't want to be receiving my emails, right? So that's just one of the thing I'm trying to see, because I don't want to be looking at vanity metrics. I want to ask myself, these views, why am I getting it, right? Because I want
agreed.
eventually, you see a lot of business, they're there like, they don't have a lot of followers, and they're like, the behind the scenes a lot is happening. And the thing about newsletter is that if you don't tell me the amount of subscribers you have, I don't know,
Agreed. And
right?
it comes to a point where it's like, why does that even matter? And I'm okay with that too. So this is another thing for anybody out here who are just starting a podcast or you're in the beginning stages. I'm okay when guests don't want to be on my podcast. At first, I took it a bit personal, or I've had one guest in the like beginning stages, like when I was just starting, and I love her YouTube content. Me and my mom and my brother even tried like some of her recipes before, and her assistant was like, "Are you sure you want to be on her podcast? Like she doesn't have that many subscribers. Like her podcast is new. She hasn't had that many episodes." And she was like, "Yeah, I love her vibe and her mom. They've tried some of my food and she was okay with being on my podcast." That made me feel good because I was already engaging with her content. I
Yeah,
really wanted to share her perspective, learn more about her journey. Having her on my podcast meant a lot to me, and she was okay with seeing that as another, person engaging with her content, even though someone else didn't think I was worthy enough of her time to be
yeah,
on my podcast. And then
yeah.
recently I had someone else who did the application, did the pre-recording, set the date, and the day before said, "You know what? I looked at your podcast and it's a little too new. And I'm
Wow.
trying to get in front of other audience." And I was like, "Well, I have over 100 episodes. What do you mean by new? Can you give me more insight? Like, I respect your decision, but can you just give me a little bit more insight on what you mean by a new podcast?" She was like, "I can't find you on something." And I was just like, "Well, I'm on Apple, I'm on Spotify. And RedCircle gives you a website, for your podcast. And so like having that
Oh,
information, that insight, I was just like,
Shaggy.
okay, what do you mean I don't have a podcast? You can't find
Kenny,
me anywhere." Drop the website,
Kenny,
everything else. Her thing was
Kenny.
wisdom was I didn't have enough people rating my podcast and
Brother,
watching
the thing
enough
shake, I
for
don't know.
her to
I
feel
said
like it was
the string.
valuable enough to
Let me
get on my
touch it. I don't
podcast,
wanna
to
hear
share
of
her
that thing.
story, share her
She just
product
get
or
it, but
promote her
the
product,
thing off.
and then actually like reach the people she wants to reach. And I think that was the big aspect. And I was just like, wow, like again, it could be the metrics, but I respected her decision. I don't want anybody on the platform that doesn't really want to be there. Like I want it to be an empowering space of people who really find value in sharing their story and value in whoever may come across this podcast. I want to be a part of your journey. I want to help give you permission to heal. I want to help you be empowered and to go live a life that I know you deserve. And let me be that sounding voice or reminder. And so that was a big thing for me. And so if the rejection comes, don't take it personal. Just know that they're just not for your space, and that's okay. There's so many other people that are. And if you haven't found the people to be on your podcast just quite yet, you keep being on your podcast. You are enough for your people. When they come, if they come, you just keep on the journey and on the mission. And I think that's a big thing for me. And so I just wanted to make sure I shared that. Like, there's going to be some people that want to be on your platform, and there's going to be some people who don't
Yeah,
want to be
yeah.
on
I
your
don't
platform,
take it
and
personal.
that's okay.
Yeah, but
Like, you only want the people who want to share their story, want to share their voice, and find value enough in it
yeah,
that if it helps anybody that come across it, it's okay. And I
yeah,
think so many people only have this mission, and that's fine too. That let them do what they do. They only have this mission to get in front of large audiences so they can be able to promote the product that they have or the
yeah,
service that they had. They may not find it valuable enough or significant enough to still share their story, not knowing who may hear it. And so, like, the rejection is okay. Like, that rejection is also protection to make sure you continue to put the right people on your platform that's
yeah,
going to be of value to your audience. And that's just pretty much what I was saying. Like, I was
yeah,
okay with it. I've had
yeah,
some people who were saying, I don't care about new podcasts. Like, she's engaging in my content and I find it valuable. She's trying different stuff. I love her vibe, her energy, her and her mom. Let me go on. Like, I'm going on. I'm gonna do it anyway. And other people, you don't have enough people rating your podcast. You don't have enough people showing up and listening and downloading and viewing. So I'm okay, but just let me know if you ever want to be an affiliate of something. And it's like, nah,
yeah,
not
nah, nah.
interested. Because something that I realized, wisdom, it was one guest who said, it's not being one in a million. It's about being a million of one. And you just don't know who you are helping, who you are assigned to impact, influence, and support in this journey. You don't know who that is. And so just knowing that you are one of a million and not a million of one, being a million of one, it's just like you don't know who your tribe is until you get
Yeah,
out there and you keep telling your story and you keep, sharing your experiences. No matter where you are in the journey, and it all matters to someone, whether they've started, whether they just started, it's at the beginning, or whether they've been in it for a while. And so you just don't know who could get something from you. And so that's all I was saying.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for that. Whew, wow, so many ideas out there. And with AI automation and all those things that's happening, I definitely want to leverage that such that I am working smart. Because I already have valuable content. So the question is, how do I put it in front of more people, right? Without having to spend all day trying to crank out the content, right? So if there was a way to just piece it out, the sections by sections, the clips by clips, and put it out there in front of people, that way content starts dropping all the time, and do that automation such that the posting leads to something, right? It leads them to because yeah, the algorithm. I don't want to be chasing algorithm, right? Even if it's
You
five
don't.
persons I get in front of, right?
You
10 persons
don't.
I get in front of, right? If someone interacts with a post of mine, like, yeah, I noticed you interact this way, right? What are you currently working or what are you currently struggling with? I'd love to help, right? And that way it makes it personal, right? Because then you're like, oh yeah, I'm struggling with I don't know, for yours it's health in habit. It could be, oh, I have eating disorders, or I have depending on what the case might be, right? And so that way
I
it's
don't have a good relationship with food.
okay. Okay. And so it's not just, oh, another person who I follow, right? So there's someone who actually does. And then in the future, when you do make an episode regarding that story, like say, you told me 2 months ago or 1 month ago that you interact with this. I made an episode with this food experts or stuff like that. And it really
Yes.
covered some of the questions you have. I love if you check it out, right? And so it's more personal. So it's not just, oh yeah, like follow, like, right? It's out there. And for me, it's just a question of when you post on social media, you are guaranteed to get views now, but you are not guaranteed to get the views you want or you like, right? But
Yes.
your views, it could be 10%, it could be 5%, but it will get in front of people. And so the question is, instead of how could I get more views, how about I change it to how can I leverage on the views I'm getting and really provide more value and interact with those persons regardless of how much views I'm getting.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I love that. And I thank you for reminding people about that. Because, like you said, it can't be about vanity metrics. It can't be about,
Yeah.
oh, the algorithm, algorithm, algorithm.
Yeah.
And I think the only word you should be worried about outside of and not algorithm is your audience,
Yeah.
who is your audience? Is your audience there? Does your audience know you're talking to them? Does your audience know that you exist? Does your audience know that you care? Do you know your audience? And are you speaking at a place? And that's recently where I was in reflection wisdom. Is like, am I speaking to my audience, meeting them where they are, or
Yeah.
meeting them where I want them to be, or where I would hope
Mm.
they are, where I want to help them at? And it's like sometimes it has to be so far out, zoomed out in regards to awareness. Um, to be able to let them know you're talking to them, than where I am right now. And it's harder sometimes to think, okay, Jovonnie, who were you 10 years ago? That's who you should be talking to right now. They don't even realize the
Yeah.
things that they're doing in their lifestyle could be leading to the symptoms that they're having that they've normalized in regards to the period pain, the pelvic pain, the cravings
Yeah.
for food that they feel like is taking over their body. And it's like or keeping them sick. They have these issues and they're just thinking the medication is going to help them versus how they're living their life. How that could help them so much more, or in addition to whatever medication they may need to take at that particular moment in time to help their body. You got to do what's best for you, but giving people that permission, but making them aware first. Some people don't even know what they know and don't know is
Yeah.
normal,
Yeah.
and it's just creating that safe space and talking to them at that point. And it's like, okay, I need to shift some things up and how I'm talking to them to let them know I'm talking to them. And so
Yeah.
I think messaging is more important than figuring out the algorithm. So your audience knows how your rhythm is vibing with them and that they should, subscribe or, join and get some better vibes from you to elevate their life.
Yeah, this conversation really went beyond board. Usually it's 1 hour. But yeah, well, like wow, this is like it's such a lovely conversation. There's so many questions I wanted to ask, but okay. What I would love to do is 3 months from now, 4 months from now, 5 months from now, 6 months from now, hopefully you're still podcasting. I would love to circle back and then have a chat. What are you working on? What are you doing? And then we just have this kind of chat again. And so yeah, that's true. I tried this social media stuff. It did work. No, that stuff was complete doc was complete trash. Yeah. And yeah, so once the episode is released, I'll reach out back again, and hopefully then I would have experimented with a lot of things and seen what works and what doesn't work. And yeah, that would be lovely.
To see in 6 months to a year from now, wisdom based on this conversation today and what you poured into me and what I learned from you and your experience is seeing um, intentional system being put in place in regards to getting an actual email list and promoting a newsletter and or
Yeah,
blog that's providing value to all of the podcast episodes I've done thus far, and really being able to weave in my coaching program and speaking opportunities. A year from now, I want to be in front of on stages, whether it's stages
yeah.
I
Oh,
created
that's true. We
virtually
didn't
or
talk
in
about that.
person, but really making sure that I have people converted on some type of newsletter or
Yeah,
blog
yeah,
to where I've taken them off of the platforms and
yeah,
I'm not so focused on the platforms. I'm just so focused on making sure my audience is subscribed to me and my brand and my messaging six
yeah.
months to a year from now. And so I really appreciate having this conversation
Thank you.
because sometimes I feel like because I put out so many podcast episodes, not everybody knows all about the podcast episodes I have because I haven't even created a system to promote every single
Yeah,
podcast episode I have. Over time, when you're crunching out one a week
yeah,
and you're promoting weekly, and then if you stop promoting because you get overwhelmed by trying to push out so much content on social media, I want to have a better system promoting the podcast episodes. And that's so much easier if that's on a newsletter that can be shouted out
yeah,
or in an email list that says, hey, check out this episode, based on the emails that I push out there. So that's what I hope 6 months to a year from now, I have grown into allowing a system to be put in place
yeah.
from
That's
that.
really wow. Uh, where can listeners listen to your podcast and subscribe to your newsletter, for the healthy habits and all that. Let's also put that in. We start one step at a time.
Yeah. So y'all, it's your healthy habits and lifestyle coach, Jovonnie, host of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast, y'all, on all podcast distribution platforms as well as YouTube. Y'all, check me out. Listen to an episode, leave a comment so I know you came through. Let me know at least one takeaway that you got from the episode or who you plan to share it with. But thanks for vibing with me, y'all.
Yeah. What's the website just in case they want to join the newsletter?
Oh, it's www.4vibrations.me.
Oh, that's me? I thought it was .com.
Yep.
Okay.
It can be. You can do .com too.
It
.com too will
works.
definitely take you. Yep,
Okay.
4vibrations.com takes
Okay.
you to my site. I have another site there too. So 4vibrations.com will take you there as well. You'll see some merch there. You'll see my story, and then it'll also link you back to my website where you can find the podcast, you can find services, and it'll have the pop-up for your email to get the current lead magnet that's
Yeah.
available. And so you can definitely go to forwardvibrations with an S.com and you'll be able to click and navigate the site and be able to get it locked in.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I can't wait to start testing things and then share it with you. Yeah. I'll put the
Yes, I
links she
appreciate it,
mentioned
Wisdom.
in the description and show notes. Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
That's it for today's episode of my podcast story. I hope you enjoyed listening to this journey as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. If you found value in today's episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. It really helps others discover the show. And don't forget to join the newsletter at mypodcaststory.com/join for more stories and podcasting insights. Until next time, keep telling your story because someone out there needs to hear it.